welcome to the show today. I am so excited. I've got Boyd Morris on the call with us and on the show with us. And he is one of the most dynamic spiritual men that I have ever met, and yet so very successful in business. And I am so thrilled to have him as a guest and sharing with us his journey and what's led him to where he's at and how spirituality has helped him in his life as well. Boyd, why don't you take a second, introduce us to you and a little tiny bit about what you're up to.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, that I've been connected with. We have people that I'm connected with all over the world on a very similar journey of wanting to create a beautiful way of doing planet Earth, which means we've got to overcome some obstacles. And that overcoming of obstacles is connected with what I do inside. It gets expressed on the outside, and the obstacles, that we're trying to overcome is to create a community that functions with abundance, which means we've got to overcome obstacles that are going to limit us from, we use all kinds of terms, creating wealth together. I think of it as liberating the creation from its bondage to decay. And so there's a lot of community dynamics that involve us in conversations, not so much around classroom settings and classroom tables or boardroom tables, but more dining room tables.
Right.
And I love the word conversation. It means with verse. And so I trust, Karen, that we'll have quite a poetic conversation here together.
Oh, well, and I am a member of the community. We call it the Community Corp, TCC, and it has been a phenomenal journey and experience for me to be part of that and to get to visit with you on a regular basis and listen to and partake of your wisdom and the wisdom of other leaders within the community. So I thank you for that. So I'm excited, and anybody that wants to know more about TCC, go ahead and message me, and I will make sure you get in touch with the people who can explain it a lot better than I can. But it's fabulous and phenomenal, and everybody I know that's in it has had nothing but great success and abundance. Not just financially, but abundance when it comes to life and love and friends and wisdom and sharing. And like Boyd said, it's open communication. And that's really, the community is all love and open communication. Now, one of the things that I learned in the community, though, is that you've had an interesting journey and past, and you've done some things in your life that may not be something everybody does. And I'd like to turn the time over to you and have you kind of take us back from when you decided you wanted to change your direction and you went on that journey and where it's taken you.
Well, the events of our lives, and for me, my wife Sheila, that were one of the milestones in a very difficult time, was there was some economic disruptions that we went through in 2008. And it was one of those wake-up calls that while we were doing our best to put together community and find ways of doing community together that were viable, that were sustainable, we still ended up going through a very difficult time in the 2008 period where we lost, seven figures of ours and friends and family money in that. And what we really began to learn was that the wealth that we were creating, it didn't go away. It just went to somebody else because we weren't in a position to hold what we were creating. We were building on you could say, a foundation of sand. Mm-hmm. We didn't know that that's what we were doing. If you had taken a video of everything we were doing above ground, it looked pretty good for a while. But then some winds blew and the streams of market turbulence hit, and this house fell with a great crash. So we've been reinventing ourselves since that time. It's not that we're on a different journey, it's that we're reinventing ourselves in terms of learning what it takes to build a community that can first guard the wealth that is that is creating, uh, to guard it from loss. And so there's a lot of things that I find that I work out on a day-to-day basis with members of the community that I find myself pondering, and as you've opened up here in terms of their spiritual sources and what it means for how we create a way of doing life that we offset the effects of decay and death.
I like that. It really puts into perspective that you don't have to stop where you're at and take a whole new fork in the road. You just have to reevaluate and do things just slightly differently and do it with more wisdom and insight, learning from events that have taken place, be they good, bad, or indifferent, but learning from those events. Now, you spent some time, I want to say it was monks, right?
Oh, I spent some time when I was a student in college, literally hanging out with some monks at a Cistercian monastery in Oregon, and I liked the environment of intensive community. Creating I would say a connection vertically between heaven and earth, because the whole idea of creating that vertical connection is what can we do on the earth to the north, south, east, and west. We need to tap into a source of power from above. And so, yeah, I enjoyed hanging out with those monks there, and that was all part of my journey about how to do community together in such a way that is what I refer to as heavenizing earth.
Yeah. Well, and that makes sense, that the form of community that they have and the way you lived within it, how that would make it so that you're such a fabulous leader within our community, because you've seen it from angles different than an HOA or what other people consider communities. You've seen it as that connectivity spiritually and emotionally and with the soul, as well as financially, with abundance. What would be the greatest lesson you would say you learned from your time with the monks?
Well, that the natural order of creation is to be fruitful and multiply and move toward a state of superabundance. That would be natural, but it doesn't happen because life that is sustainable and life that's superabundant is something that's inherent in creation.
Mm-hmm.
Creation has the potential, but I think of who we are as made in God's image as shepherds of creation. So the creation it's longing to be liberated from its bondage to natural mortality. So the way that I've come to see things is that the creation itself is good and mortal, but it has potential to be more than mortal. It has the potential to ascend, but it needs a shepherd to guide it. And that's our role, is not to consume the creation, not to depend upon the creation. It's the other way around. The creation is depending upon us to guide it, to shepherd it, not to dominate it, but to release it, so it can be fruitful and multiply. And that's the glory that is ours in being made in God's image. Is we're made not just as creatures, but we're also made as creators. And so we have the power to create, to bring about what is new. Creation itself is looking for us to do that.
That's beautiful. That is really beautiful. if you were to take a youth under your wing and to guide them to a journey to follow for their own success in all aspects of life, I'm going to turn it over to you and put the camera solely on you, but take it away and tell us exactly how you would mentor and guide this youth on how to find their right path and to bring spirituality and community into all of that.
Whatever we're going to be doing in relationship to the creation or to each other is a fundamental discovery about our own inherent value. That inherent value isn't something that is determined by others' opinions of us. It's not something that's determined by the amount of wealth that I could quantify that I have in a bank account or that I have on a ledger. It's not even determined by my own behavior or the behavior of others toward me. It's determined by something that I was given as an irrevocable gift and calling coming into the world. It's the priceless, unrepeatable, infinite value of every person. That is the first thing in the mentorship and apprenticeship process that I would want to be sure that this person that you imagine me mentoring, that yeah, we've come into an agreement that each one of us has that infinite value from the day of our birth, before we owned anything, before there was any opinions ever formed about us by anybody else, and that type of thing. It's the starting with the understanding that each one of us has a unique and utterly priceless way of branding the universe. Each one of us has the ability to create a way of shaping worlds that is priceless and unrepeatable. And so that's what I would want to see initially set free. But that's something that's not, you're not going to find that on the outside. That's something that we have with us as the starting point. We don't have to work for that. We want to work from that, so that our work isn't going to be working for something that we're trying to achieve. It can become, therefore, very laborious, very toilsome to try to achieve something that we already have brought with us, which is the ability to work from the inside out. So that's where we would start, Karen. That's, we would start there, and we take it from there.
I love that. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were telling me how great they were and all the wonderful things they'd accomplished and so on and so forth. And somebody else came in the room and they were like, yeah, they're just this, that, and the bag of chips. And when they left, they said, were you just humbled and honored to be in their presence? And I was like, yes and no. I don't see people for their job titles or those things. I see them as people, as human beings, as spirits, as souls. And I admire them by their actions and their souls and their behaviors, not by what they have accomplished in life as far as degrees or job titles or anything of that nature. And the friend was going, really? So you're not impressed that they're like the CEO of? And I went, I've been the CEO. I'm just another person like anybody else. And so, it's not the title, it's them as a person that's impressive, not their title. And as I'm listening to you, I see you're saying that it's what we are inside, not the outside, that really makes our soul what is unique and special.
Yeah, so you may have heard me in different conversations contrast. I like to use contrasting language so that it's clear what we're talking about and what we're not talking about. If individuals are grouped together in ways that they are relating to what I call collectives, you have a very mechanistic and non-personalistic way of now doing the world.
Right.
because what you're doing is you're mechanically trying to manage lack. The whole starting point of that approach is that there's only so much, there's only so many atoms in the universe, and therefore all we can do is move piles of sand around in a prison yard. And so you have collective institutions that emerge that will turn populations of people into individuals that end up working for the state or working for the collective, whatever it is. It could be a business that's formed as a collective, or it could be a family that functions as a collective in tribalism, or it could be any type of entity that is created that is going to put individuals to work in a fashion that isn't going to really create anything new. It's just going to move stuff around that already exists. Now, the difference is when you have persons and their personhood that are membered together in a corporate body, persons that are membered together corporately, you now have a whole that's greater than the sum. Now you have an environment where actual creation can occur, where new realities can be birthed, where you can transcend mortal limits and you can create infinite possibilities. That's the difference, is that a person is at their very core, everybody has a unique form of artistry. Well, we would say that I would say, that every person is a unique artist in their own way. And that artistry is creativity. You're not just moving piles of sand around now in a prison yard. You're not just turning stones into bread. You're actually adding to the substance of the universe. And the only way to do that is to do it in community. Individuals are not in community, and a collective is not a community, not in the sense of what I mean. A community is persons incorporated as a body. And what a living body can do is organic. It's not inorganic. It's not mechanistic. It's personal. It's vital. It's living. And anything that's living is going to be an expression of one person in relationship to another person. You can have one individual, but you can never have one person. You always have persons in community.
Yeah. I like that. Well, explain to us how we can get to community in our own personal lives. I mean, obviously become part of a community, but how do we create our own community so that we're living an and life instead of an either or life?
Well, that's something that, Karen, you and I have recently connected, and we are every day getting up and we're connecting people together in as members of a movement together. And there's something about, the foundations of who we are in community that goes back to this idea of being of infinite. Each person that's membered together is of infinite value. And so what's happening is you can think of each of us as a microcosm. We're a world in miniature, each in our own way. And when we connect together, two or three of us connect together and we form a circle, whether that circle is a formal circle or it's a non-formal circle. It could be a non-formal discussion group. It could be a formal circle. We form a business together. So, but it's a combination of the formal and the non-formal. And so it's not only connecting persons together in a community in general, it's connecting persons together in circles that are first going to, and largely, start local. Now, local today doesn't just mean geographic. It doesn't mean less than that. I think it's important that we do rediscover how to do local sustainable community in a sense of face to face and geographically. But we can also be connected with people of like interest, even in small circles, in many different kinds of ways virtually. So, so that's, I think, in our day, what we're doing is we have an opportunity, I believe, in our generation to do forms of community and ways of connecting together in circles. They're going to really be unprecedented, largely because we have this communication technology that is enabling you and I to do what we're doing right now. We're connected in a circle of friendship, and that is virtual. That as we're having this conversation right now, I look forward to, in the place where I live here in Colorado Springs, we have what we call a celebration center that's coming online in downtown Colorado Springs, and it's going to have a restaurant because eating together is one of the ways of forming community. In fact,
Right.
I often, as I've already alluded, I believe that the dining room table is really, that the dining room is really out in front in leading the classroom and boardrooms. There's a
Right.
place for the classroom and the boardroom, and they need to be following the dining room. So,
Yeah. I found during the period of everyone staying at home, uh, the big C word nobody's allowed to say online, that when we had virtual dinners together, it was better
mhm.
than just having meetings. And that's, we just got together and we all got our salads or our hamburgers or whatever they had, and we just chewed the fat, talked about personal stuff instead of shop talk. And
Yeah,
it's sadly it's become more of a virtual world, and it's sad in some ways. In other ways it's fabulous because you can be at our part of my inner circle, and I'm in Ecuador and you're in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
yeah,
So that's a big difference. And you and I sitting down going to dinner once a week is not likely. Uh, but when we can get together and do things with people in our circle, it's so important that we have that one-on-one time. And I love how you say that it's around the dinner table that you really make those connections and solidify those bonds, because there's nothing like sitting across from somebody and looking straight into their eyes, or shaking their hand, or in some cases giving them a hug. But being able to be right there and feel their spirit and energy just feet away from you is so rewarding. So rewarding.
yeah. Your question, it relates to the development of trust, because in a classroom, apart from the dining room, you can have knowledge, and in a boardroom, you can have power. But
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and power are pretty worthless to create new worlds. You can use knowledge and power to move sand around in a prison yard. But if you're going to do new stuff and you're going to do it in community, it fundamentally involves coming into a place of trust. And what happens in developing trust in the local geographic and the face-to-face ways, yes, it can be amplified. And in fact, it can be shared across geography and space-time, with a lot of this form of virtual communication. So because we will uh, have opportunities to be together in a face-to-face
Yeah.
way throughout, the days ahead. The key is let's get some circles of community happening with all of us locally, and we will find ways to even, travel and get together in face-to-face ways. And even when I'm hosting something, say here in Colorado Springs, that may have a circle of people around me that are physically in the room, you would be able to be a part of that, and others would be able to be a part of it. So we're going to combine this way of connecting across geographies and space and time. But that's all part of the new way that we get to community in our day.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And we've got a lot of celebration centers going up across the United States, and
Mhm.
we'll have some going up internationally here not too long from now. But tell us a little bit more about the celebration centers. I know that in your case, the one by you is going to have a restaurant, but tell us a little bit more about some of the things people are doing with them and planning to have in them, and ways that we can connect better face to face.
Yeah, you can think of them as the hub of a wheel with a lot of spokes that have acquisitions in these local areas that will include our own gas stations, our own grocery stores, our own fitness centers. We're basically creating our own sovereign economy. If you want to look at, real estate acquisitions and the celebration centers being like a hub, uh, you could also think of them as a city within the city. One of the things about doing community in this way that we often refer to as a commonwealth and being our own sovereign economy is that we function like our own city.
Right.
And so the celebration centers are a showcase of that 24/7 way of doing life together in community and in this commonwealth fashion, where we've begun to learn lessons that came out of the hard realities of 2008 for some of us,
Right.
on how to hold wealth together personally and corporately in a fashion that's protected from loss. One of the great existential fears of all of us is loss, particularly loss in the form of annihilation. And so that messes with you. It messes with your mind. It creates, if you're doing an economy playing defense against loss, you end up in what I call a zero sum. We use this term way of doing life where if there's this much of a pie, you have a pie and you take your piece out and I take my piece out, that leaves that much less for everybody else. And so what we're doing with the celebration centers is we're leaving behind that limited view, because even though there may be, some would argue, a limited number of molecules in the universe, you know what there is? There's an infinite number of ways to recombine them. And so at the celebration center, what we're celebrating is innovation. We're celebrating risk-taking. We're celebrating the experimentation of people combining the elements of the universe in a way that, wow, it's not that we're trying to defend against loss. It's that we're looking how to optimize. We're looking on the other side of the fear of loss. What can we do with creating layer upon layer of greater multiplication and success that we're already creating? Now, this means overcoming. And that's why I think that, at these celebration centers, the concept of the dining room, and I especially like dining rooms with round tables. I really don't like square tables. I like the round ones because if you have an equal value and different function of every person sitting at that table, we can celebrate the different, unique personality and personhood characteristics of every person. At the same time, there's an equality of value there that we're bringing, because when everybody's bringing something of infinite value, we have equal value there.
Yeah.
And the celebration centers, will also function like a large community dining room, living room. There'll be space there for events with many of these celebration centers to host small and large groups, both connecting small and large group meetings, even virtually, with other small and group meetings that may be happening live across all of our celebration centers. There'll be even space there for people to set up either in flexible office or more dedicated office space for especially members of our community that have teams and businesses that they're starting. So, those are some of the basics of what'll happen in our cities within the city.
One of the things that I love about the Community Corp is that it's everyone has value. It's not, I have more value than you have, or he has more value than she has, or she has more value than the other person. It's we all have a great amount of value, and it is our ability and willingness to share that makes it so beautiful. And it's all about sharing, and people are not in what's in it for me as much as they are what's in it for the community. How can I help others? And a lot of that they get watching you and Jack and watching you guys lead, because you're all about how can we help others.
Yeah, the infinite value that you have to contribute and that I have. When I say that you can have one individual, but you can never have one person.
Right.
If you're bringing something of infinite value, and I'm bringing something of infinite value, and other members are, where that's going to be expressed is in the context of releasing that value for others. That's what the celebration is we all get to set the table for each other and host a dinner.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just metaphorically, but I also mean literally. We have a whole generation that needs to learn all over again, and I'll count myself among them, how to set the table in a hospitality setting for others. So we're really creating a hospitality setting for celebrating together what we're doing to create abundance. We're not creating hospitals to hold each other's hands as we're trying to just, survive in a world of woe. See, there's a hospitality and hospital are both based on the same root word. What we really want are places of healing and places of wellness, not just places that are managing death, but places that are cultivating life. So you can cultivate life in hospitality centers. That's what our celebration centers are. They're places of hospitality to cultivate life together.
Well, we talked quite a bit about community, and alluded to the Community Corp. But tell us a little bit about the Community Corp and those that really want to have a good sense of community and have that abundance of wealth and abundance of community. How do they get in touch with you or someone to get more information about that?
Anybody that's listening to this is welcome to email me. My email is Boyd, B-O-Y-D, at thecommunitycorp.com. So that's one way to connect with me. And I would want to be sure that as we connect, Karen, particularly because the people hearing that email address and getting in contact, they have your contact information, I assume, or will. So we could host some small group times together, if virtually. I'm always looking for an excuse to travel and meet with people in their local settings. But that would be one way to get the conversation started, is for us to connect and look at what it would mean for somebody to become a member, and then we get started together on some really cool things around these dining room tables.
Yeah. So that is Boyd, B-O-Y-D, at thecommunitycorp.com, and that's the THE community, COMMUNITY, Corp, CORP.com. So I seriously, I think contacting Boyd is an amazing idea. You can always message me. I am happy to get this passed on and get time set up where you can talk to somebody and find out more about being part of this community. Because like I said, and this, Boyd, I have been on a quest to improve my energy and vibration and spiritual outlook for years and years. And I became a shaman about a year ago. And since then, I have been really searching for like-minded people. And being part of this community has helped me find those like-minded people, but it's also helped me find a way that I can dedicate more of my time to my spiritual growth and to my personal journey without having that worry and fear of, am I going to be able to pay for rent in a year? What happens if, I'm having a retreat? What happens if nobody comes to the retreat? Well, they will. They're already signed up. But what happens if they don't? Am I gonna die? But you guys help put everything into perspective, and help people find that. Well, I call it financially sustainable community, because we are financially sustainable. And I liked how you talked about the pie and the slices of pie. And the reality is the way you guys have set up the community. When I take my slice of pie, I automatically infuse, put back, create, magically appears, however you want to say it, another piece of pie in there. So that pie is never empty, it's always full. And yet I still got to eat and partake and enjoy the pie. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of hard for people to truly understand. And that would be a good thing for them to contact you and have a conversation on that.
Well, I look forward to that for certain.
Yeah. Well, any final words of wisdom you would like to share with us?
Well, I'll just give a little teaser on our vision as a community. We say that we boldly create access to limitless opportunities for vetted and valiantly imaginative people passionate about building beautiful, absolutely free, super abundant communities.
I love it.
That phrase or that sentence, that vision is something that many of us have been together on this journey. We boiled it down, and we can unpack that because there's a lot that's been funneled into it in our respective journeys, and it'd be good to hear more of your story. You invited me. It's an honor just to share just a little bit, of some of my story. I look forward to sharing more of it, and then to be able to see us go back out from that funnel point, because there's obviously a lot packed into that statement that and we could use that as a springboard for some of our early conversations around the dinner table.
Well, I think that is a very profound statement. Now, I do want to make sure you are aware. I do have a spare bedroom. It's a master suite, so it has a bathroom in it, and I'm looking forward to you coming and visiting me here so we can celebrate together on the beach in Ecuador. So it's an open invitation for you.
All right. Well, it's just a matter of when. We'll keep moving toward that. Thank you. Thank you for that hospitality invite.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, this has been a wonderful show, and I want to thank you again for coming and sharing your words of wisdom and just all of the insight and your energy and love and spirit, and helping us understand a little bit more about community. And I'm looking forward to our next meeting together. And the rest of you, please make sure you contact me or send an email to Boyd at boyd@thecommunitycorp.com and get to know more about community and become part of one. And this is the best one to become part of. Until next time, may you find peace and joy in all that you do. Ciao for now.